I can say without a doubt that the most advanced yoga I have ever done is raising children. And I used to wrap my legs behind my head every morning before coffee. My name is Sarah Ezrin. I'm a writer, yoga teacher, content creator, and the mom to 2 young boys. I recently wrote the book, The Yoga of Parenting, 10 yoga-based practices to help you stay grounded, connect with your kids, and be kind to yourself. One of the highlights of this journey has been sitting down with parents from all around the world to hear how yoga has informed their parenting. Their stories are fascinating, funny, raw, and sometimes heartbreaking. I spoke with step-parents, single parents, grandparents, and though everyone's identities and family structures are completely different, all of these parents have the same intention: to parent from a place of connection. I am honored to share these stories with all of you in this limited series podcast, The Yoga of Parenting. Well, I'm very excited because, as I was mentioning before we started, you are my first couple on the podcast, Adam and Holly Hustler. And I honestly, before I even thought of the podcast, I wanted to sit down and talk to both of you about this journey, because it was like right when I was birthing the book and my second son, you had birthed your son. And I think you've got lots to share with us, being conscious couples, conscious parents, and all those things. But just really quickly, I want to tell you the world a little bit about you, though that I'm sure they already know. So Holly, I didn't realize that you had started the Sound Sisters community, which is so cool, and being a conscious musician. And so, maybe later we can talk a little bit about how the yoga weaves into your music, and bringing, the sound healing and all of that beautiful stuff, and how that then comes into your parenting. And then Adam and I met like 10 years ago when,
More than that. I think maybe more than 10. Yeah.
I mean, so you were one of the original boys of yoga that our mutual friend, Michael James Wong, founded. You created alignment-based vinyasa, or that this is your signature style. And what I really, really love about all of your content and everything that you share in the world is just, and you do it so beautifully with Holly as well on your podcast, is just how real you all are. And, calling us, it's like the sides of ourselves that people will sometimes hide in embarrassment, that you bring to the surface and are like, we're human. This is normal, right? This is the silly things we do when we show up to a class early. These are the parts of our characters and ourselves that we're willing to look at, and you bring it to the surface in this really beautiful and hilarious way. And so I'm really excited to talk parenting with both of you, because I can only imagine what we're going to get into. So my very first question is, are you sleeping?
Just, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because it goes in waves, and I've realized you never get to this perfect point where you're there and it's all sorted out. And when you're kind of close to that point, it all changes again anyway. So you just got to kind of take every day and every night as it comes. And for me, I'm still getting, there's this whole obsession. I don't know if you find it with babies sleeping through the night. And I got quite hooked on that for a time before I started thinking, he's not going to want my boob when he's 18. So I'm just trying to find the joy in waking up still at 4 a.m. when he cries to go and feed him, and know it's not going to last forever. And yes, I'm a bit sleep deprived, but I can deal with it if it means that I get to have those special moments with him at night. It's getting better, isn't it? The sleep.
We did a course. So we did a course about this American lady who's quite popular. Quite a firm course. Maybe what did we do? 6 months we did that?
Yes, five months.
And that really helped us get some stability and get some structure. And so we committed to that for quite a while. But now, as like the hot nights come in the UK, it's quite hot at the moment, and we could be just dehydrated. Now that he is sleeping through the bulk of the middle of the night, we're both being a bit more like lax on it, and just think, actually, just feed him. It's fine. Yeah. Let him have a drink of water. Let him drink of milk. It's fine. I say that like I'm doing anything.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
He's running in with my boob.
Yeah. I'm chilled.
Well, I was mostly joking when I asked you, because, it is, and I love that you both had like that. I love this answer, and it's so important for everybody to hear this, because my first was a pretty good sleeper. My second was not. There was no sleeping through the night, and it was the same thing. I was like, I'm feeding him at 10, and then I'm feeding him at 4 a.m. But it's like, I got those couple of hours in between, like, whatever you're functioning on. So I promise you, I was mostly kidding, but I love that you have such an intentional answer about it. And I really love the approach, and I'm curious how your yoga practice influenced it, of realizing this is all temporary. Right. Like this is, because I think a lot of us go into new motherhood and new fatherhood, and you get really bogged down in the details, and it's like, get them to sleep through the night. You take these courses, but you both have this knowledge, right? It's kind of in the background of, this is all temporary. Is your yoga practice lead into that? Is it, the culture these days where we hear 18 summers? Where do you think, or is it just like watching him change every 5 seconds? Where do you think that comes from for both of you?
For me, I genuinely do not know how anyone copes with parenthood having not ever practiced yoga before, because we all have our moments, don't we? And I think I could only deal with this if I'd done yoga, which I have, thankfully. So I'm every single day grateful to have had a few years of practice under my belt to be able to help me to understand, that things are just temporary, and to let things go, and to surrender to this motherhood flow that maybe I would cling to if I hadn't, I'd try and control and manipulate and have it my way if I hadn't done the yoga practice. So many things.
I think it's not just the yoga though. I think a big part of it is that when you do yoga, you then become part of this kind of wider community and subculture. Like you don't end up hanging out with people that are in the pub every night. You don't end up hanging out with people that are just obsessed with like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. jobs that they hate, but they're doing it because they want a new Rolex. You hang out and get exposed to different ideas. So even if it wasn't about like a long-term yoga practice, just by being exposed to more conscious individuals in your life really helps. They're kind of like a byproduct of yoga. And I always say like the effects of yoga tend to be quite hidden. Like Holly and I have had that conversation before, that the long-term yoga practice that both of us have had, to be honest, like I can do less in my body now. I probably peaked about 6 years ago in terms of like putting my leg behind my head and the like. But when good things or bad things happen, we're just more balanced and more able to see things as they are and respond in a loving, kind way. And I think it changes who you are. And you don't think, oh, this is my yoga practice coming in. It just fundamentally changes you on a deeper level if you have that long-term practice.
Or not even, sorry, you carry on. I was just going to say, not even change. I was actually thinking about this in the shower earlier, about the yamas and the niyamas, and how for me, it's not that yoga changes you, but
that's so sad that you think.
I know, but I do.
I'm a yogi and I think about the yamas and the niyamas in the shower.
Honestly, I adore them because they're a way.
Were you doing Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana while shaving your leg?
I was holding my toe in there. But for me, they're kind of these truths that they're already inside of us, but the yoga practice helps to bring them up to the surface and helps us to remember, love comes first, love and compassion comes first, then, speak with truth, etc., rather than it changing who we are. It's like, this is really who we are. It's just bringing us back to that remembrance, if that makes sense.
I love that so much. And that was something that my teacher Mati Israti had said, where it's like, yoga is not changing you into something different. It's a return to who you are. And I found that parenthood is kind of similar, because we go into it and we think we're being transformed into, these, and you're still very much in the early days. So like, you're like, I like, I'm hesitant to even say, because I want, matrescence, like you're still very much in it. I don't know if it's putrescence, like when the early dadhood, but you go through this change, you are transforming. It feels like you're becoming something different, but really it's the melting away of all those external things that we were hanging on to and attaching to get back to the core of who we are and what's most important, right? How we want to spend our time, what we want to do, maybe old, interests get sparked again, or, and that really is the yoga. It's exactly like you peaked with your leg behind your head. I just texted Renee, our mutual friend at Yoga Journal, like about an article about peaking. I was like, I think my teaching is peaked, and that's okay, because now you're on a different trajectory and a different buildup. I love the idea of the yamas and the niyamas, and I love the idea of, being conscious and being balanced, but I also love you guys because you're super real. So when you're exhausted, because that is, whether they're sleeping through the night or not, you're tired once you have a kid. You're both exhausted. How do you continue to be kind to one another? What's the quickest way to come back together when there is a disruption? And how is the yoga influencing that or not?
I think before you bring another being into your relationship, whether that be a child or a dog, whatever it might be.
I've got one underneath me.
Yeah. I think you need to sort yourselves out first. And actually, even before that, before you even enter a relationship, you need to sort yourself out first.
If you're lucky enough to have the time.
If you have the time and space to do that, and the freedom and support to leave bad relationships, to actually get to the good one. But I think both of us did a huge amount of work on ourselves. That meant that when we actually came together, the couple, we both knew what we wanted in life. And we both realized that fundamentally our happiness is linked to the happiness of the other. So why would we have a petty argument to make the other one sad? That's going to make us sad, etc., etc. So, you hear couples that say, oh, we never row. And then, secretly they hate each other. But like genuinely, like we don't, or we just nip it in the bud straight away. Because I guess we're not, I would call it analytical. For me, that's my mind, is that I think about each action and potential reaction and what the aims are of my behavior. And ultimately, it always comes back down to wanting the best for the people I love, and also selfishly wanting the best for me, because I want to live in a nice household where people care for each other. And so it's been a fairly smooth transition to parenthood, I'd say, in terms of our relationship with each other, because we've always got each other's back, and we're quite transparent with how we feel. And I think I heard, is it Brené Brown? I think it might have been her on a podcast the other day with Tim Ferriss, saying that, when she gets in from a day at work, a relationship is never 50-50.
Yeah, my husband just showed me this. Yeah, last night.
Yeah, she might come in and say,
like,
I'm a 7 out of 10 today. So he's like, okay, cool. I'm a 3 out of 10. So you need to look after me. And I guess that we kind of do that, but without doing that in a sense. Yeah.
Well, but I think so it was like the 7 out of 10 or 3 out of 10, but he doesn't say you have to look after me, because I think that
she said, I've got it.
She has the space, if she has, 70% of the energy and he's at 30% or 20%, she has the wherewithal to be like, you know what, I can step in for you. But because she also uses the example of both of them coming home and both of them being at 30% and then having the wherewithal to be like, I can't carry you right now. I can't. So there's not the expectation, but also like, sitting down and being able to talk about, how are we going to approach this? Do you have help? I mean, who is it, just the two of you, or do you have family around who's helping?
Yeah, we're really lucky. So we moved from London a few years ago back to my roots, where I'm from in Surrey, and my mum and dad are 20 minutes down the road.
Perfect.
And they are the most doting grandparents you could ever wish for. So yeah, we're really, really lucky. It makes a huge difference.
It was intentional.
Yeah.
And we moved back for that, not just for that reason.
And I think that helps as well, doesn't it? When you've got people, because you know what it's like, even as a mum, if you have, half an hour to yourself, it can make all of the difference just to recharge the batteries and be a better mum. So we're lucky.
What are you doing these days, both of you, for your personal practices, and how are you recharging your batteries? And, maybe it's not, Adam said you're not lapping your leg behind your head anymore, but what does it look like and when you're fueling yourself under what we would consider yoga as an umbrella?
Yeah, that's been tough to navigate, because I had a meditation practice and I was practicing yoga, being asana, before Sonny came along. And obviously you had to give all of that up for a time. And for me, it's just been sort of one thing slowly at a time, introducing it back into life. And I've only just actually this morning got back on the yoga mat in a real life studio, which was just absolutely amazing since Sonny has come into the world. And I've said it quite a lot on podcasts that I think that being a parent in itself is a huge spiritual practice, without having to sit down at an altar and meditate and be present. Being with your baby is almost like a practice of presence in itself. And that's me at the moment. That's where I'm at. Not much going on in the way of formal practice, but baby.
And I just want to really reflect real quick, like parenting is yoga. So I 100%, but yeah, we're just speaking like, mantra meditation. But yes, you were doing yoga every single second of every day when you were with your kids and in any relationship. What about you, Adam? What's it looking like?
Well, I segment it slightly. Like for me, I always believe there is a formal and an informal practice. And I think the formal practice is really important. And for me, the formal practice is the meditation, the asana, whatever it might be, the bhakti yoga. And then for me, anything off that is me using what I've gained from yoga in my normal life, as it were, and putting it to the test. And actually, so my formal practice has really died down. But let's say pre-Sonny, I filled up a battery, and I'm maybe that battery is now at 20% of what I've stocked up in terms of formal practice battery. So I think I need to start formalizing the practice again, because I won't be able to run off that pre-built yoga battery forever. So starting recently, the formal practice is beginning again, with like small bits of meditation, little bits of breath work, trying to capture moments. Because I've got the issue where I'm working in London. When I'm in London, I'm flat out, like 3-4 days. I'm just flat out, back to back, traveling across. Then when I'm at home, I'm trying to be a parent, be present, and then I can be a household. We've got an old cottage, so it always needs work, do all the project work. So it's very hard to slide stuff in. And I'm realizing actually from a longevity perspective, lifting weights is more useful at this point in time. And I'm always thinking now from a physical perspective, what can I do to help me live as long as I can, as well as I can, for the sake of my little child?
Oh.
And that's a big motivator for me now. And what I actually like flexibility wise, and asana, I know asana is more than flexibility, but it's just not the most urgent thing for my body at the moment. The most urgent thing is building strength and stability, which, so I know some people say, oh, my weights is my yoga practice. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe it is a formal practice. So that's what I'm doing more of, but I am going to start introducing more and more formal practice in the form of meditation and some softer asana soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I am very much of that camp, and being 41, having had a shoulder surgery and reconstruction, then having 2 kids, breastfeeding still, I've basically been breastfeeding for the last 4 years, I also am much more into the strength building and the weights and going slower, but also, treating the meditation and the mantra and, those things as part of I love the idea of the formal and the informal. Adam, how do you know when your tank is depleting? What tells you that you're at 20%? What are you noticing in your day to day?
Mood. Like I'm pretty much chill. Like I pretty much have a constant like chilled out level. I never really get stressed particularly.
Is that true?
But I just.
I was just thinking it manifests in you get neck pain sometimes. I think it's.
Oh yeah, I get a knot in my neck
physically. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm pretty even. I don't get overexcited. I don't get over sad. I just want to deal with things. But yeah, Holly, you say.
Yeah, I'm like the excitable one, and Adam's just always constant.
but it's more just what I think the way it manifests for me is getting more concerned about stuff, getting more concerned about future, and just letting narratives keep playing through the day, like unuseful, unnecessary narratives, allowing them to keep going, rather than catching them, realizing their futility and moving on. And that's the way I realize my tank is getting slim, the inability to deal with the narratives quite as quickly.
What are some of the narratives? Are you willing to share?
Like, I guess, some of them is just concerned that I'm not on top of work in terms of projects, concerned that I'm not making enough in enough ways to build security for the future. Always concerned that I'm not making the most of every single opportunity available to me at all times. Those kind of things.
Yeah, no big deal. Just the entire weight of the family.
that.
And then I always think it's really nice to do as well, just as a check-in with your own, how you are in every sense. And I've done it a few times in my life, like a little pie chart. And you have a little pie chart, at one for like health and fitness, one for finances, one for relationship, and you kind of just chart out where you are on each of those things.
Do you have a secret physical one somewhere, or is it all in your head?
No, I have it all in my head, but like definitely like my physical one, I quite like being strong and big. And I'm still bigger than most, and I'm still fitter than most people my age, but it's not as much as I would like.
But I love the pie chart. And when I teach about boundaries or lead some of the yoga parenting workshops that are specifically about boundaries, I have people do that, because we think boundaries and it's like, you think about like oversharing, right? Or like, your boundaries with other people, but what about your internal energy boundaries with yourself? Where are you giving all of your attention? And like, it has to change, and it has to constantly cycle. You're still in early days. Like, you're not even at the end of the first year yet, right? So Sonny's going to take up a large portion of that, but then where are you taking from to give back to, where's Holly falling on there? Where's Adam falling on yours? And then where are you falling yourself, right? What are you guys doing for yourselves? And I like, one of the questions I was dying to ask you both is, you're doing the podcast together. You have a new baby.
It's stopping. Holly's taking a sabbatical.
Do you know what? This is a really good example, actually, because
Tell me.
I think I'm not sure if it's as a mum, especially, well, probably as a mum, especially, I almost felt like I had to keep doing everything the same, but you know what it's like. I still don't have words sometimes for what motherhood is and how I'm feeling and changing and transitioning. And your head is constantly full of lists, and there's not just you to think about anymore. And I'm constantly thinking, is he warm enough at night? And, what have I got to pack for him tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. So I just thought, this is actually draining me, like the amount I'm thinking about Sonny and not being able to think about, my work and, making a living, et cetera, and all the other things that I've got to do as well. I just thought, like, what can go, what needs to go. And
me.
So Adam's out the door, basically. And the podcast, as much as I love doing it, it just felt more draining than nourishing. Not because I don't love, having chats, but it was just another thing that I had to kind of think about and do the research. And I thought, for now, I'm just going to, while I'm in this state, I just need to take a break from it. Yeah.
It's like a 3-hour process. Like, just recording, the researching, the setting up the cameras, moving stuff around.
Yeah.
It's a good 3 hours. So
even the wires drained me. Just looking at the wires, I was like, I cannot deal with this.
So I think what we're doing with the podcast, it's Holly's going to keep coming onto episodes where she knows the people well and she likes them and loves them, etc. But when it's normal guests,
maybe back to winter, I'll come back again.
So if to any future guest on a podcast, if Holly's there, it's because she really, really likes you. If it's just me, Holly's in.
Keep that in mind, all the yoga teachers listening. But that's an example of your chart, right? That's that was your, like, in your head, you were going through your pie chart, and all the energy was going to Sonny, and then you even were breaking down in your dharma and in your career in there. What are the things that were draining you, and that was taking up a lot of space, and it was not bringing you joy. So
it's as simple as that. And I had to do things that bring me joy. I find it really draining to do anything with work or anything that doesn't light me up,
Exercise.
That's a really good example. With Adam will just do exercise because it needs to be done and tick a box, and he's fine with that. Whereas I can't just sit on a bike and pretend that I'm happy and just, tick the box, exercise done. I have to enjoy it. I have to go to a dance class or, with a great community of women and feel good when I'm doing it. I just really struggle to do things that don't bring me joy, everything.
And when you have a kid, it really cuts through all the noise of, saying yes to the things that don't matter. So how are you managing your energy then, Adam, because you are so busy, you're sought after, you and Michael are traveling, our friend, Michael James Wong, you guys were traveling a lot, at least before. I think you're a little bit more grounded now. He's still on the road all the time, even with the twins. How are you managing, the pressure that you talked about before of obviously having to earn income to support, to contribute to the support of the family, but also, managing your energy and, still having something left in your reserve for your family and home?
Like pre-parenting, I thought it could go two ways. I thought either I would just want to make all the money for the family and just want to work at all times to provide, or I could just want to be with the baby the whole time. And that's kind of what's happened. I just want to be at home with Sonny. And I'm still traveling a lot, but we're like, by the end of this year, Sonny will be in, I think, 10 different countries. So we're taking, I'm bringing Holly everywhere to do sound healings, or at least 1 or 2 workshops. Sonny can come with us. We've made sure that, we're not doing any really distant trips, like no Sri Lanka or Bali. We're not doing those kind of travels. We're just going around Europe, places that are relatively easy. I think even next year, like I've said no to a Namibia retreat, but we're going to Canada because it's kind of easier and a bit safer, etc. Less to think about. So we're making things work, and it's shifted my focus. From I would often teach every weekend, like internationally, but also teach 17 classes a week in London. And actually, now I really don't want to be. I've earned my stripes a long time ago, just teaching public classes. I love public classes. And I think it's important that teachers teach some public classes. I think, a teacher that just teaches like on an intellectual level trainings will soon lose touch with actually how you apply that to normal random people that drop into a class. So I think it's important to still teach a few public classes, but I've realized actually, like tomorrow is my last time teaching a Saturday double. And I've taught a Saturday double for like 7 years, every Saturday morning. So actually, I'd rather either use that to make money more efficiently through workshops and trainings, or just be with my family on a Saturday morning. That's a good example. So just being a little bit more intelligent with how I try and use my time and try and do other things just to make money more efficiently, I guess, as it were.
Yeah, the more quality of it. And you are working again, right? Holly, you're back doing your sound healings. And I'm so curious about the conscious music and if that, maybe singing lullabies to Sonny, how those play into each other. But how are you balancing right now being a new mom? Because, I think we're new moms until they're like 18. And, and also, starting to reignite your career, because let's be honest too, as a breastfeeding mom, is as involved and wonderful as our husbands are. There is a physical attachment and a physical component that is hard to, like you said, he's not going to bring your boob into the room, right? Late at night.
He just take bottles, doesn't he? So we have at times, Holly's left him for like 2 days while she's taught a training, just with Dada.
Yeah, I did my second tri-yoga training 2 weekends ago. So he does take a bottle, luckily. But yeah, in the early days, I think I've had maybe 3 months completely off. I mean, I was still dipping my toe in the Instagram world and things like that, but I'm very lucky because I genuinely love what I do. And it's something, it never, well, obviously some bits of it drain me, but I'm trying to make it so that all parts of it fill me up and nourish me. It's having a purpose, isn't it? And it's, you're going to say something?
No.
Yeah, no, I really, really love it. And I don't feel like I'd actually want to be away from it for too long, because as much as I love, Sonny so much and being with him, it gives me something else to think about and do and make my little part of the world, brighter in my own little way. So yeah, I think what having a baby does, it makes you simplify or want to simplify things. And before, I think I was saying yes to so many different things and going here, there and everywhere. And now I'm focusing on leading trainings and my membership, which is called Sound Sisters Community, which is like an online sound healing membership. And I'm lucky because my commute used to be from North London all the way on the Northern Line down to Brixton, with all of my bowls in rush hour, sometimes raining through Brixton, and like a good hour and a half either way. And now it's a 12-second walk to the studio outside, which we're so lucky to have. So I do a lot of stuff online in there, and then lots of local things too. I'm really just kind of taking it day by day and just feeling into what feels aligned currently, and just somehow making it work. And I think it helps that Adam's self-employed as well, and we can just sit and kind of look at the timetable each week and work out who can have Sonny when. And yeah, that's really how we're doing it at the moment. I've never been much of a 5-year plan kind of person. Yeah, I'm just rolling and hoping for the best, to be honest. And it's working, I think.
We've got to the point now where both of us are at the stage where we're ready to push again a little bit. As in, I wasn't, I was doing what I needed to survive.
Yeah.
Not chasing up new opportunities.
But in the early days of Sonny.
Yeah, just in general, like up to now, like people email me.
You go into that like cocoon. Well, even you have to go into it.
Writing for Yoga Journal. I was really enjoying it and just stopped. I was like, it's just became so far down the list of things I need to deal with to survive. Like my Instagram died a little, and it's still fine, but all of these things,
What is your definition of your Instagram dying? Like it was like.
But that's me not posting every day, for instance, not being a good content creator.
Yeah, you're plenty. Yeah, you're. It's just funny when you're like talking to like mortals that like get like 40 likes on their post, and you're like, well, it went from 7,800 to 7,772. But I know in your mind.
Yeah, but people could. I want that to be a source of income, and Holly as well. We haven't done much on social media, etc. But we're at a point now where we're ready to make plans again, to work on our future, to build again.
But in a different way. Like for me, it feels as a mum now, it feels different, you know, priorities shift and change. So yeah, but I don't know how that's going to look, but yeah, I can feel that wave coming again, that kind of, you know, the fire in the belly.
And we're quite lucky that we can support each other in various ways. Obviously, like we've just said, like Holly and I can travel together and teach together. And I can teach my stuff, then Holly can teach a completely separate thing that's nothing to do with me. And the fact that we've got this studio that we can do stuff together in, we've got amazing cameras and microphones and stuff. We've got all this resource we can use. So we're lucky in that sense that we can support each other both as parents, but as self-employed people.
And I just want to reflect, you know, you mentioned the yoga journal thing. I was so proud of you because this is for, you know, Adam does say yes to everything. And normally when I ask him to be a source on things, he'll say yes, yes, yes. And he'll get back to me quickly because, you know, our deadline, we have this like hurry up and wait deadline and then it never gets aired. But Adam, you said, you're like, I'm in it right now. Like it was like a silly story. And I wanted to grab a quote from you and you're like, this is not priority right now. And I'm so proud of you because, you know, and this is exactly what the parenting does. And this is what you're talking about, Holly, you're starting to do it on a much broader scale. But, you know, what are we saying yes to? What are we saying no to? And how ultimately those are switched, right? The yes to one thing is a no to something else, just like a no to something is a yes to something else, and figuring out that blend. Yeah, so true.
But I think it is easy to say at times to end up being really inefficient. So I think what I'm certainly doing more now is what am I actually saying yes to and no to a little bit more? Like, am I just saying no because I can't be bothered and it's a route of least resistance? Because I'm realizing now that actually I have more space than perhaps I thought, and perhaps there were certain things if I just stepped back and looked that might take. I don't know, it might take a little bit more effort in the short term, but will give me a greater gain. So I think initially you're just in survival mode as a parent, like just saying no to anything superfluous. But then as time goes by, you become a little bit more intelligent, but you need to kind of step back and think, you need to know why first, like what's your aim in life? Like what is your aim as a parent? What do you want more of? And then think about how you're answering that yes and no question a little bit more intelligently.
Yeah, I mean, I found that after Jonah, who's my first, that I similarly, like I was like gun shy to say yes to anything. But with Jacob, you know, with my second, I never stopped. I didn't stop. I was like, you know, writing the book up until I went into labor. And then I was like, you know, doing social media stuff while in labor. And then after I had him, you know, and there was no break. And I do not recommend that. But the difference between the two of where like I almost went too far on one end of the spectrum of pulling out and saying no and pulling back, and then having that restart, which by the way was also during COVID. So it was like very different times, you know, with Jacob, where it's your second and you're just like, second kid, you know, and you keep going. It is really finding that middle balance of what matters the most. So how do you guys find alone time then? If you're together, you're working together all the time, you're traveling together. Do you need alone time, or do you fill up with each?
We are one.
Do you fill up together, or do you get alone time? Like what are, you know, I know we talked about our practices and the yoga of it, but let's talk a little more conscious coupling now. What do you do to fill your tanks on that sense to be able to give to one another? Or is it all kind of the same?
We've had a few date nights because I think that's important to make sure, we're stepping away from the baby and just doing something for us. So that's been really lovely. We probably should be better at it, shouldn't we? I don't know, what do you think?
No, but I think when you say alone time, do you mean alone as an individual or alone as a couple?
Alone as a couple.
Both. Yeah, both. I mean, like as a couple, but you know, also sure, you know, like what you're doing as human beings as separate entities, and then coming back together as a couple, because all those are different relationships, right? You have the individual, the dyad, and then the triad of you and the kids.
I'd say we were pretty strong. We were a pretty strong couple before COVID, and then the first few months we didn't make that much effort for us as a couple.
When are you talking about?
When Sonny was born, the first few months, understandably, you know, we didn't really have us time. No. It was just Sonny and us, which was perfect. It was lovely, but we didn't nurture the relationship as a couple per se. But then we started to do that. We started to do date nights. You know, we started to be more intimate again, etc. And we're getting better at that now, like having time for us as a couple. Not that things ever fell apart or anything, but then like individually, it's hard. I don't like, so for me, it can be quite hard because when I'm in London, in theory, that's like alone time.
But it's work.
But it's really,
Yeah.
it's hectic. It's, literally, I might leave the house at 6 a.m. and it's a long day that might consist of 2 car journeys, 2 train journeys, 7 tube journeys, plus walking, plus, teaching and holding space and getting back at 9 o'clock at night. So in like, as far as like Holly might be concerned, Adam is off doing his thing and he's alone. But then the reality is that's really not. So I actually really struggle with any getting alone time because then when I'm at home, I always want to be with Sonny, or just do my duty as a dad and like help out or do house stuff. So I've really struggled to carve out pure alone time. Maybe sometimes when in the toilet, I know 20 minutes.
That's why parents, that's why we all hide in the toilet. That's, that's like how we get it.
even going to the gym, like we literally have built a gym in the garden. There was a physical building that has like a massive squat rack, bikes, etc. And since Sonny was born, I've probably been in it 15 times, and it's 20 meters away.
It's got a forest in front of it
30 meters away. Yeah,
that's what's grown in the time since you've used it.
I've finally started using it again, but that just shows a perfect example of something that I only need to be in there 45 minutes, but that conscious effort of making the steps to get the clothes on, to unlock the door, which mentally, well, that seems like an obstacle. Yeah. Get to the garden, make sure everything's charged that I need to be checked. That almost seems like quite an effort. Whereas I might end up just like lying on the sofa with Sonny napping and just sit on Instagram for 20 minutes, which is just a useless waste of time. So it's I find it really hard to find that kind of proper alone time, even just for the gym, etc. You've started to manage to find it, haven't you?
Well, the thing is with me is I know, I think there's a whole thing with feeling guilty around the mum guilt, feeling guilty for taking that time out and self-care and things like it. Well, if it's not guilt, it comes at the bottom of the list because it's like you have to look after, your baby first, and you've got to clean the house, you've got to do this, the to-do list is going on forever. So how are you going to find time to, do a meditation or do a sound healing or have a, nice candlelit bath? It just seems laughable when you've got a baby. But I know I feel so much better for it when I do have that time. And then Sonny gets to benefit and everyone else around me as well. So I am actually consciously thinking this is not, a luxury. It is really necessary that I do take this time and carve it out in my diary so that I am, the best I can be in all ways for everyone.
Is Pilates and
so I am getting better at it, and I'm trying to stop this guilt voice in my head because it is ridiculous and it's all conditioning. And I'm getting back into my body, doing some Pilates. I've joined a local studio now and stuff. And it just changes my day. And
we're quite lucky that we live in the countryside as well. Like so the Holly Pilates studio is on like a wine estate.
Yeah, just going
in
there.
a barn.
Beautiful.
So just even stepping outside is restful.
Yeah.
And it's nice, I think, for the other partner to force it upon their partner.
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
For Holly
you'll
get in. Shut up, get in.
Okay, so that's that. I was just going to ask about that. That's so beautiful because I think that's part of what's going to help. It is so much conditioning. So much of it is like living in the Western world and the ideal parent and the specifically, especially for women, the ideal mother. But to have a partner that encourages that alone time, that's able to say like, okay, we were talking about the Brene Brown earlier. Like your tank is low. Here you got to go and you got to spend that alone time, and that both of you are aware and conscious enough that you can give that to each other too, where some couples, I think there can be jealousy around that or, an insecurity of the stepping away. But to be aware that, no, you need this time and to be able to give almost like force it upon her. I love that. You're like, get in the bath, light the candle.
Yeah, no, you are good at that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I just want to remind listeners, but I'm also reminding all of us, the parents in the room right now, that we cannot pour from an empty cup, right? And as much as we all tend to fall onto the bottom of those lists, unless we are doing those things for ourselves, we will run out of steam and we won't have anything. That quality time won't be quality. So even if it, is just closing your eyes on the train or taking the bath or just stepping outside, whatever you can do for yourselves. And I'm so glad to hear how well you guys are taking care of yourselves, given that you have a 10-month-old, because I'm not sure that many people have the wherewithal to do that. So it's thank goodness for yoga.
I think we're lucky in so many senses and privileged in so many senses, in that we've both got decent careers. We've both worked hard on ourselves. We have a good relationship in ourselves. We've got support around us. And it just makes me think about those people that don't have that, like the single parent that has twins,
oh my God,
the person that doesn't have the money to feed their children. My mom brought up 3 kids.
Pretty much by herself.
This is not with me. With me, she did, but she had before me. She brought up like 3 kids alone, no money, working like multiple jobs. Really struggled. No support when there's tiny bit of support maybe, but not a lot of support. And it's just for anyone listening to us have this conversation about all the things we're doing, time for ourselves, etc. Just acknowledging that for some people,
There's privilege.
It's really isn't possible at all. Even to close your eyes on the train might not be possible if you have your children all day and then have to drive or cycle to work as quick as you can. And we're privileged in that sense.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And yeah, I mean, and I think that people have to figure it out on their own, because they're it's like you said, it's like when you go to the bathroom or when the kids go to sleep, that you still are getting that, at least even if it's just a minute for yourself. But yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are blessed that you have your parents nearby. I have my partner, and a lot of people don't.
But this is where some of these practices can come in that everyone can do a 10-minute meditation before bed. People can tap into some yoga practices. Everyone can do 2 poses of restorative yoga before they go to sleep. There are things that people can do. And so yoga, in the broadest sense, does offer some tools that are free and readily available, that don't take a lot of time, that can be done pretty much when everyone is asleep. There are tools out there.
Yeah. And I think also the reframing of like the length of a practice, what a practice looks like, right? Because it doesn't have to be a 2-hour event where you're getting your leg behind your head and standing up and dropping back. That it can be just very simply singing to the baby and, being conscious in the music that you're making with your body. It could be very simply closing your eyes and sitting on the edge of the bed, and that reframing. We're coming to the end of our time, and I know it's very late for you, but I end these conversations asking this one question, and I'm so curious. I'd love both your thoughts, or you can hand it to one or both, which is, what's the most surprising way that your yoga practice has helped this early parenthood journey?
Surprising way. Oh my gosh.
I think flexibility, genuinely. Like, as in the ability to like pick up Sonny from low levels.
You mean like physical?
No, yeah.
I thought he meant like adapting to sleep.
Just literal flexibility and strength, and the ability to carry stuff, that bend stuff. Like even today, we were in a staircase, like no lift. So a nice, safe squat, pick up the pushchair, the balance and proprioception to walk down 2 flights of stairs whilst holding a pushchair with a baby in it. Genuinely, and this is like my big advocate to anyone doing yoga and mobility work. Is it helps you live life more efficiently if you control your body in space.
And for me, it's been stepping away from the practice and stepping away from the mat that has helped me to reap the benefits of the practice. And that surprised me, because I thought when I stopped asana and stopped meditation, I would fall apart in some way, or I'd lose something. But it's actually the space away from it has given me so much and helped me to really integrate everything that I've learned and practiced.
I love that. And then, it comes full circle to what we were saying in the beginning, which is like, yes. And I know maybe Adam disagrees between informal and formal practice, but yes, there's the formal physical practice of asana, but parenting is its own formal practice, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of different on that. It's always to when people say to me, my running with my yoga practice today. It's like, it wasn't.
It's quite nuanced though. It depends what people mean.
I know. There's so many levels to it, of course. So I completely get what people mean when they say that, and yeah, I get what people mean in the sentiment.
Well, if we're thinking of like, there's all these different definitions of yoga, right? But if we're thinking of the Sanskrit word yoga, which, ultimately is about connection, right? Like the word means all these different things when you look it up in a Sanskrit dictionary. It doesn't just mean one thing. It's also like a mathematical sum, an astrological conjunction, a marriage, a con job, apparently, which that one I don't understand fully, but it's like all these different things. Then at the root of all of those things, the nucleus thought between them all is this idea of connection, conjoining and coming together. So, maybe running, maybe for someone, I am not a runner. I don't even like running, like, when there's traffic and the light is changing. Yeah. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm like you, Holly. Like I want to like have like a mindful movement, but, maybe for, the parenting aspect of it, the relationship, the marriage aspect, that is the conjunction, right? That it's like the ultimate coming together. So in that case, it can count as formal yoga.
You take that. You take whatever you want.
Another podcast for another time.
Exactly. Another time. Well, I am so grateful to have both of you here. Huge congratulations. You're actually my last guests too. You're my first couple and my last guest as we wrap up this limited series. So I'm really honored to get to sit with you, and Sonny is just adorable. And I'm so excited to be watching you both on this journey. Thank you for sharing it with all of us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Yoga of Parenting. Everything we discussed will be found in our show notes. You can purchase a copy of the Yoga of Parenting book anywhere books are sold. And please remember to subscribe, rate, and share these episodes so we can get all this wisdom to as many parents as possible. Follow me on Instagram at Sarah Ezrin Yoga, and the original music that you heard both at the beginning and just a moment ago is by the amazing Egeman Sonley. You can follow Ege on IG at Egesan, Egesan, and you can find all of his amazing music on Spotify. Big thanks to Kyle Rebar for being the best producer that there ever was, and big thanks to all of you for listening.